And we are live and in living color. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Extra Connections Race. A little throwback if you guys are old enough. Race Talk here on JLJ Media. I'm the JLJ. Of course, that kind of makes sense because he's not JJ. He's J something K. And it's Jared Karol. Hi, Jared.
Yeah. I could change my legally change my middle name and last name. But maybe not Lot Jr., maybe like Lynn Jones. Jared Lynn Jones. There we go.
No, I like that you're JK and I'm JL. I
Ooh.
like that. If we were in school together, we'd be sitting near each other.
Yeah, we'd have the same homeroom.
Yes, exactly. So JK and JL, that's close enough. It's ironical
Yeah.
that our names have initials that are similar. So I think it works. It works for me. Keep your initials. Keep your initials.
Okay. I won't go legally change my name then.
That's okay. It's okay.
'Cause I heard that's really easy to update all your documents and
Yeah.
everything.
Oh yeah. We're just to change your name. It's great. It takes us
Yeah.
it takes 200 steps. I mean 2 steps. Fine. Now where is my private chats? They're changing things on here all over the place. It's saying my video's private. I didn't mean to do that. Let's change that. Sorry, folks. You're like, what is James doing over here? Why is my video? It's public. Yeah, it's public. Listed public. Okay, you're gonna try me today. Let's see. Okay, that's on. That's fine. This is live TV, people. Live TV, and it's telling me no, it's public. Yes, it's really public. Let's try this again. Okay, it says live for people who are watching. And there's the chat. Okay, I'm like, what is going on here, kids and kidlets? Oh, come on, chat. There it is. Hi, Beauty Ashes. Somebody coming in. Hello, hello, hello. We're glad to have you here. And of course, start my list. My list of lists. Went to Zoom recently, and everybody was like, James, those lists. So one day I'm going to publish those lists in a book. I think we kind of a book of lists. And I might do some little behind the scenes on each list and what it kind of not tell you what they mean. Because I want you guys to read them too and kind of go, what does this mean? Like give you a little bit of context. I think some of you will see the dates that I pushed and let them kind of get an idea of why certain names were mentioned. So are you ready? I have to ask him now. You have a list of your own?
No.
Okay. So what he may one day. So he's like, just now we include that into the talk. I asked him in the list. Well, he may say, James, I have a list. You never know. So I have to give him that first right of refusal. Um, okay, so now, if I get ready, it's time for the list. Let me take a little drink of my apple juice. I'm a 5-year-old. I'm having apple juice right now. It tastes for it, Jared. I taste for apple juice. Okay. The 50th annual Daytime Emmys. Emmy winner and my friend, the late Sonia Eddy. The Color Purple, the musical, the movie. Coleman Domingo as Rustin Bayard in his new movie. Fantasia. The historic lesbian kiss on the Hallmark Channel. Disgraced George Santos. Sean P. Diddy Combs. Mace, Cassie, Nicki Minaj, Beyonce's Renaissance, the historic new Black Doctor on Doctor Who, Thriller at 40 documentary and a special 2 CD set, Jermaine Jackson, Kelsey Grammer, the cast of Girlfriends, Eddie Murphy as Alex Foley in the upcoming Beverly Hills Cop 4, the Candy Cane Lane movie, Leave the World Behind movie, Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali, Big Brother Reindeer Games, Rain in Los Angeles, Roseanne Barr, Keith Richards turns 80, the Grammys Hip Hop 50th Anniversary Tribute, KRS-One, the slap saved our marriage, quote, Cornel West, rest in peace, television pioneer Norman Lear. And these are the shows that he changed television. Maude, All in the Family, Good Times, Sanford and Son, The Jeffersons, One Day at a Time, both versions. Mary Hartman, Different Strokes, The Facts of Life, Silver Spoons, Archie Bunker's Place, and 227. Marla Gibbs, Willie Nelson at 90, Chris Christopherson, Roseanne Cash, Barbara Streisand. The Drink Liquid Death, Larry David, Mayim Bialik, Casey Wilson, Tim Allen, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. The 49ers, the Chargers, the Raiders, Darth Vader's hallway scene, Rogue One, Lauryn Hill, Dick Van Dyke, My Friend Krista Allen, Brad Pitt turned 60, Shannon Doherty, Cher, rest in peace, Emmy winner Andre Braugher. Two shows you should watch if you want to know who he is. Homicide: Life on the Street, where he won the Emmy as the first Black person to win the lead actor Emmy in a drama. And the comedy, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He was good in both of those. Blurs, Black Nerds. Young Kook, Olivia Rodrigo. Taylor Swift's Taylor's Versions. Cameron Grimes, My Friend Gives Birth. Rest in peace, James McCaffrey, who voiced Max Payne in the video games. The recently disgraced Jonathan Majors. Emmy winner Tabitha Brown. And just about an hour ago, rest in peace, radio icon here in Los Angeles, Jim Ladd. That's my list. I always ask Jared what he thinks, what he wrote down, what's going on.
Well, as usual, I am about a millionth of the knowledge that you have around media and pop culture. But it doesn't mean I don't know anything. Actually, let me rephrase that. I don't always follow all the latest news, but most of not all of those people or ideas. I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah. So usually what I end up doing is just writing down a few things that not necessarily that I have anything profound to respond with, but just that I'm interested to hear more, and then we can start a discussion. So here's what I wrote down of that long list, as you said. Beverly Hills Cop, are they really only at 4? I thought they would be like at 43 by now. I remember Alex Foley and Eddie Murphy. And do I remember correctly that Herbie Hancock did the music for that? Those Beverly Hills Cops?
Harold Altemeyer did the Axel F theme and the music for that. It was a huge hit.
Oh, it wasn't Herbie Hancock?
He was
Didn't
big at the same time with his song Rocket, which that video was a pioneering video. So
Okay.
no, it's Harold Faltermeyer who did
All
it.
right. I wrote down KRS-One, which actually I first heard from Sublime. They had a song, I don't remember if it was called KRS-One, but
Okay.
they were kind of waxing lyrical about, these white guys, white reggae, whatever they were, guys, saying how KRS-One was like
I
where
say
they
the Sublime was genre bending. They had several.
Yeah. I wrote down Taylor's versions because I think, well, when is Taylor Swift not in the news?
Yes.
Curious to see your thoughts on her time thing and what that means and what it doesn't mean. Lauryn Hill is always interesting to me, and Andre, who is the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Andre Braugher.
Brower, yeah. So I didn't know his name, but I looked over when you said Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and my son is sitting over here and he watches that
Oh
show.
yeah. Oh but yeah, he just passed.
He had a little chuckle. So,
He was 61.
yeah. So that's what I wrote down.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Your son Max is over there. Max.
yeah, Max, you want to make an appearance?
Hi Max. That's why you shares the name of my brother. So I always think about that. It's Max. Great name. Great name. Okay, so I'm gonna start with KR. This is a good one. Start with KRS-One. It's a good one. We'll start with him first because he brings up something that to me it's dividing people, and it's
Mm,
also very generational. So, folks who may not know who Karis One was, he is one of the leaders and pioneers of hip hop back in the '80s, and now is considered like a scholar in hip hop at this point. And they're trying to they're saying hip hop is 50 years old. Saying from '73 is when it started, which is mostly spoken word, of course, and that's the whole story there. But the Grammys want to do this whole salute. So asking people to come to do a performance or two, right? Several folks have declined. KRS was the one person who declined and actually said why he declined. And it's dividing people. In a nutshell, he's saying, you haven't checked for us for 50 years, some of us for 50 years, and now all of a sudden you want to trot us out and celebrate hip hop when we've been here the whole time. Like, you didn't talk about us at 45 or 40 or 30. You went for the mainstream folks, but now you want to come to us who started it. And so he's boycotting and not doing it. I personally myself, I just boycotted the daytime Emmys. And tomorrow night on my Emmys show, I'll be talking about why I did that. I've so right now I'm feeling principle, and so that's something I want to talk about with you a little bit, and because principle is something when it comes to race work and feeling certain things, when it comes to certain things. And for Karis One, he felt, and like myself in the Emmys, I felt I've been around a long time. I did the work. I am known as somebody who's a person in this of stature in this certain genre, and you're not getting the respect you deserve. That's how you feel. And I saw a divide in the comments. Anybody our age was like, go, go power, black power, go, go, go. The younger ones are all like, you're just hurting yourself. And why don't you just perform anyway? So I guess a good lead into discussion about race and standing up for yourself and what. So I want to hear what your beginning thoughts about that.
yeah, I mean, again, and obviously you are very, very more up to speed on just the nuances of all the the actual things and people and contexts that are going on, now. And which is awesome. And I think the fact that I'm not is kind of it lends to a good discussion. So of course I know who KRS-One is, and I hadn't heard this news, but I just Googled it real quick. I said KRS-One news, and there was the headline, and he's like, nah, I'm good. And so, I will read the article because I'm interested to learn more, but it's the first thing that came to my mind when you said the generational divide. And so KRS-One, he's probably what, 70, 60
No, no,
maybe?
I think he's around my. Isn't he around my? The other artists that don't show his age up there. I would say he's
Let me,
around
let me
my
see.
age, or slightly older.
Let's see.
A lot of those guys started around our age. They were young when they started.
He's 50, okay, he's 58. So
Okay,
he's,
so 2 years older than me. 2 years older than me. Yeah.
yeah. So it's interesting because in my work, in corporate America, we often think of like, oh, the younger people, whatever generations those are kind of more, they're more with it. They demand more things like, hey, I'm not going to work for an organization if they do this or if they don't do that. And, they're kind of more, whatever you want to say, woke or, fluid. And I think generally that's true, but then I think sometimes it's not. And I wonder if this divide of, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they're calling the generational divide, where the divide is, but if I'm 25 or 30 or 20 or whatever, and maybe I'm into hip hop, I've heard of KRS-One, I like his stuff. Do I really understand like the history of why? Not that I have to agree with him or really even understand like the full context of why, but do I understand generally why someone like him would do something like this? And I wonder if you know if the younger generation appreciates that. And I feel like I wonder if those like young whippersnappers really understand, But um
Here's Jared. Here's the thing, Jared. You're my age group.
yeah,
We are older. We are Gen X. We have to own it. We are that.
yeah.
So people in their 30s are younger. They're from us. They
Well,
and they are different. They're a different generation.
And I know there are generational themes and trends and truths, truisms, I suppose. But I don't buy into the like, well, they're older, so they think that way, or they're younger, so they think that way. Like, I think each individual person, and this is my philosophy degree coming in, is like it's like an existentialist thought. Like there are no objective truths. So you can be, I mean, my friend, my one of my good friends from college, his dad just died. He was 93. And he was a little bit frail the last couple of years, but up until a couple of years ago, he was really kind of really sharp and with it. And of course, he was old. I mean, you could tell just by looking at him, he was old, but he wasn't like one of those old crotchety like these kids. Like he was liberal and all the things. And then you see 20-year-olds who voted for Trump or whatever. So I guess I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm curious to hear your insights into what you think, this divide is around this KRS-One, his
Um,
his choice.
so I disagree with you on some level, but I mean, I don't have a degree in psych, or whatever, philosophy, whatever you have a degree in. I don't have that. But I just know from being around, because I have kids who are in their 30s. So and their friends and I raised part of that generation. So I know for me, and I'm friends with that generation right now because that's just the generation that I am considered older in the business just by default. So I know a lot of people in their 20s, 30s, and even early 40s. I find the way society has changed. I think it's changed so much. It's the exception when you find somebody who's not like the rest. I feel like there's more herd mentality because of social media. There's more of a herd mentality. People just kind of go along with everybody else. And a
Yeah.
lot of people just don't think about anything. And I feel like they feel like, what's what I'm supposed to be doing? I mean, I'm somewhere in my 30s. I should feel this way. But I feel I've met to your point, I have met younger folks who are extremely mature for their age. And I've met my Aunt Faith, who's in her 80s, acts like a 40-year-old. I mean, so you're right. I've seen each of those. But again, there are exceptions. I'm around a lot of old people, and they're all crotchety, and they're all the same. I was a directing nurse; they were all the same, except I would get one or two that weren't. So for me, it's the opposite of your thing.
Yeah.
It's I
Well,
don't agree with everything, but I just know my thing. It seems like they're all the same with exceptions.
yeah. Well, now that you've said what you said, I think we're in violent agreement, and maybe I just need to clarify. Like I recognize that I recognize the trends that you speak of, and yes, we agree that that is true. What I'm saying is, and maybe this is just aspirational or something, but like it doesn't have to be,
Oh, of
and it
course.
isn't always necessarily. So I guess, I don't know KRS-One personally, but I know enough about him and what he stands for to understand and appreciate whether I agree with him or not. I mean, I'd like to read the article and kind of see more of the context and the details of, how it came to be and blah blah blah. But for the most part, like, and it doesn't even whether I agree or not isn't really even relevant. It's
Right.
like, can I understand and appreciate why someone like him or why he would do this?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. And maybe that's because I am 50 and I have the experience to go, oh yeah, I could see why someone could do that. But I wonder if I'm 25 and I'm really into hip hop, and maybe this is a comment on just society in general. Like if I'm 25 and I'm really into hip hop and I've heard of KRS-One and I like him, but maybe I'm not as into hip hop as I think I am because I don't really understand why he would do what he did.
So I go the other direction. I go the direction of if society tells you take every opportunity, do it. And you and I both know not every opportunity is good because we've been around the block a few times. We know that not every opportunity is good, and maybe you should say no to certain things. And I felt like when I saw the comments and all the young people were like, "You're messing yourself up," as if Karras wanted to do this show, his life was going to fall apart. Like it's not going to fall apart. His life will continue whether he does a show or not. But I know society nowadays tells you hustle, hustle, get out there, and you got to do. If it comes your direction, do it anyway. Put aside your feelings. And I'm like, well, when do you not? When does that not matter?
But are they so totally get that, and you're right. But what I'm getting at is, okay, so these young whippersnappers are they criticizing him on principles, or are they just kind of reacting to like society going like, yeah, like that's whack. Why wouldn't he do that? Like, are they upset or are they just kind of like befuddled? Like, why wouldn't this famous hip hop guy go make a bunch of money? Or you see what I'm
I think it's
getting?
all the above. I think it's all the above. I'm saying that's when I saw I don't know these people personally, but I saw the comments and
Yeah.
there were a little bit of, we have to ask you some of their motives like that. And that's the problem with today is that when it comes to online, when it comes to groups, how much of it is faux outrage, how much of it is just jumping on a bandwagon to be heard and seen and get popular hits and clicks, and how much it really is. Why is he doing this? Why is he not just going in and doing it? It's an opportunity. I mean,
Yeah.
I wonder. It's all the above. It's the all the above. I think.
Well, and I wonder too, and I mean, talk about principles. I'm assuming he's done it, for a very principled reason. I mean, the headline of the article I found, states that, right? Like a principle of mine is, and this is something I do not see very often, is, hmm, what if okay, I'm into hip hop. I've heard about this event or non-event, however we want to categorize it. I have an opinion, I'm interested in it, in just in what's going on, but I don't really have that strong of opinion, so I'm actually not going to share a strong opinion or an opinion at all. Like, I wonder how, if there were a million people that, heard of this, I bet you 999,000, whatever, minus 10, there are only probably like 10 or 20 people that actually really have a strong, like, and I'm just being generous there. The rest of
Right.
us, we don't really care. And
Right.
so that's what I'm interested in. And by the way, that, look, some of these other names I wrote down, I think we could apply that same frame to enter into some of these other people and.
But see, here's the new reality. There's a new altered reality that's happening out there for a lot of people. Not for everybody. For a lot of people, it's that online is the world.
Right.
Then
I
how
mean,
do you?
well, it is, and whether you've seen this or not, this is just a question for our discussion. Like, could an argument be made like, hey, KRS-One, okay, sure, personally, maybe you have principles and you're like, hey, screw this, I'm not gonna, where were you at 40 and 30 and 20, anniversary? But you as being who you are, you have kind of if not a responsibility, at least an opportunity to represent, blackness or black culture or hip hop, and you're turning that down, and that is hurting us all, meaning, black people or hip hop. That I could see if someone was making that argument, I could understand that. But just because, like, if it's just like, oh, why would this famous guy like not just take the money and go do the thing? Like that doesn't really resonate with me.
I saw a lot of that. So I'm saying it's like online is so weird because it is this kind of and it does lead sometimes to offline where people are now being influenced by what they see, what they read, what the group says, who they follow. I mean, we're seeing that so much. This Jonathan Majors thing just happened. He was, in the Marvel universe, and I mean, I saw him in interviews. He was like this strong, seemingly strong, outstanding young black man in the business. Well, he just was found guilty of beating up his girlfriends or whatever. I mean, he apparently has a past, a pattern of doing this. So Marvel said bye, of course, and dropped him for any future projects. And so again, I saw this kind of have said, well, Marvel did their job. They waited, proven innocent until proven guilty. He was found guilty, and they're dropping him. Others are like, he's still part of Marvel. Like, so it's one of those weird things. And he's black, of course. Where Ezra Miller, who was in, I guess, DC, or he was white, and they kept him. And the movie still, and the Flash still came out. I guess there's a whole thing with that too
Well,
going on.
and
I saw the
we know that, that's how white supremacy operates. So take the black cops in, was it Louisville? Why am I blanking? It was like a year ago.
like
Uh,
second somewhere, yeah, somewhere over there, yeah. I
um,
remember.
who, so after the last couple of years of all the uproar and finally some justice for, for George Floyd, for Ahmaud Arbery, like finally some people, were not, and I even feel weird saying like finally they got punished, but but under the history of our nation, like it's like, okay, so yeah, they were accused, the evidence showed it, they got punished. Well, then, these five black cops kill a black guy, and there's no like drawn out like, well, we're not sure. No, well, we're gonna hold those cops accountable. Like, yep, no one's above the law. Oh, interesting. They all just happen to be black, and you're acting like this. Whereas, Derek Chauvin, well, it took a couple of years to kind of just make sure and you see what I'm getting at? So I think,
I heard what happened to him in prison.
yeah, that
That's one of
was
the few, and that's one of the few times I didn't see any divide. It felt like everybody across the board was like, "Good." We didn't, it was like I did. That's one of the few times online I didn't see a divide. Didn't see it.
that's what I'm wondering, is whenever I see quick justice against a black person, I wonder, even it sounds like, even if he was guilty, I'm not
Yeah,
saying it shouldn't have happened, but I just wonder about, why was that relatively easy and quick to get to that point when
but just be, but to be now, actually, I can't believe I'm going to be devil's advocate. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Oh my god, you're going to say
what
this.
aboutism? Are you
No,
engaging in
I
what?
know. I mentioned Roseanne Barr. They did it to her really quick. ABC said, "Bye, bitch." You said something about black person. They got rid of her that fast. So I have to give them points on that end. There was swift justice on that one.
Yeah.
But is
Well,
that because she's a woman, or is that because she's? I mean, is there other? I mean, are there things that play with that? You think?
I don't know. I mean, I remember being, gosh, when was this? I remember this, and I don't know if I remember it from that time or if I remember it looking back, knowing
Oh,
kind of what
later.
I know now. But back in the 80s, I think it was Jimmy the Greek. Was that his
Jimmy
name?
the Greek.
The
Oh yes, Jimmy the Greek.
and
Yes,
he
Jimmy
was
the
at
Greek.
some social event, and
Yes,
someone came through
yes.
and was like interviewing, and I can't even remember. I think he was talking about football players. They're like, Jimmy,
Yes.
you're like, why do you think there's so many, black football players? And he said, well, because they're just bred that way, or like whatever he said.
Genetic. They're genetic. Yeah,
They're
yeah. I know.
genetic.
Yeah,
And then, I don't know, when was that? Like 80s? That was like 85 or something like that. I'm sure we could Google it. But
yeah.
so, I mean, point is, I was not racially aware or conscious. And
Sorry. I just typed up Jimmy the Greek, and what comes up? Racist comment. I mean, I didn't even type that far. Like that. Come on, Google. That is hilarious. 1988.
okay, so
British career. British
I'm
career. Yes.
15. I can tell you right now, James, that when I was 15, I did not know shit about race and racism.
Yes.
So, but I
Yes.
remember that and that he got fired. And again, I don't know if I actually felt this way at the time or if I'm just kind of projecting backwards onto like how I feel
Yeah.
now. But I'm like, yeah, that guy should have been fired. That was messed up. So I guess where I'm going is like there is, there have been precedents of this kind of stuff. It just hasn't been consistent, you
Well, I agree
know.
with that. No, the black stuff, I agree with all that. I mean, but it's like I have to counter with something. I have to go, well, so we don't get in trouble, people. Like there are cases where the white folk they took them down fast. Woo! I mean, it's few and far between, but I have to say, if we're going to mention Jonathan Major, I got to mention Roseanne Bikes. That was, I mean, folks are still pissed about that. They just, and she had her unusual rant this week too with the, it's like kind of crazy. But they took her out fast. They changed the name. The name is Connors now. They changed the whole show name, everything, and went on without her. But it was like, it was fast. I was shocked how fast they just were like, ABC Disney was like, bye, bitch. No, we're not having this over here. That
Well,
was it.
and do you think that's so? And and I hope anyone listening knows, all this anti-woke stuff from
Yes.
DeSantis and Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We've talked about it on our podcast,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
legislation. The latest, I don't know if it's the latest, but one of the latest things is JD Vance. I don't know.
Yes.
So there's a woman who I actually know. I follow her on LinkedIn. I know, I mean, I don't know if I have her phone number or anything, but I know her, Janice Gossam. She writes for Forbes. Her new book is called Decentering Whiteness. And she talks about like decentering whiteness in the workplace and what does that mean and what does that look like and how do we, and so like you and I, we know what that means. It doesn't mean get rid of all the white people. It means decenter the white perspective that says white is best and white is smart and white is leadership and all the things, right? And so, she's got a decent platform now. Like she's on Forbes and she's getting some interviews. I don't know all the extent of, and so now JD Vance, who I think people know, he wrote Hillbilly Elegy. I remember reading that 5, 6 years ago, and I remember liking it. I can't remember exactly what the book, but I remember it was like, oh, this is a good book. Well, then of course now he's this super, ultra conservative senator, governor. I don't even know what he is. What is he? Congressperson, whoever he is in Ohio. Just flipped out. And he's like, this is what's wrong. This is DEI should die and all the things. And then he's using his power, his leverage, his authority to just like, basically have a smear campaign. So,
He's senator, Ohio senator.
Senator, okay, good. Thank you. So where I'm going with all this is I wonder whether it's in corporate spaces like this woman, Dr. Gossam, or politics or media or celebrity. And we've talked about this before. How do we, meaning people who get this stuff, are fighting for change, or trying to educate people, are trying to, improve lives, reverse harmful legislate, all the things, right? How do we not just dismiss the people who are dismissing us? So JD Vance, Ron DeSantis, this is a bunch of bullshit. You're stupid. I'm not even paying attention. This is, right? That's basically what they're saying. And they have the power to push that narrative in all kinds of harmful and expansive ways. So how do we not just do the same thing back and say, oh, they're stupid? So I guess what I'm getting at is how do we change our tactics so that we actually go, we know they're full of shit, but if I was them, I can see why they think that, however wrong it is. See what I'm getting at?
There is, to me, that's the eternal question in terms of how to move forward, period. Is it's that whole thing of don't listen to that foolishness. I mean, it's an old school thing. Don't listen to that foolishness. Just ignore them, they'll go away. But I think we're finding is they're not going away, and they're actually getting positions of power. So on some level, I'm with you. It's like you want to just ignore them because the most outrageous things come out of their mouths. Just like you got Vivek Ramaswamy just saying the craziest shit on there on earth and attacking people and being like a Trump Jr., so to speak. You can't ignore him. It's like he's loud and proud, and I have a couple of friends who are fans of his, and I kind of get why they're fans of his. I want to call my friend stupid. I want to say you both are stupid for thinking he's somebody. He's actually a crook. But you guys, I see he's shining, and he says things that almost sound like there's something. So I put myself in their position. I feel like, and of course, and he's not white. He's actually other. So that's another thing that's kind of like, oh well, he's not white saying this stuff.
But he's not black.
But he's not black either. But I'm saying he's other. I said he's other, and my friends who like him are white, so they're not black or other. They're white. So I'm like, you guys don't really like Indians either, but suddenly you like him because he's saying some things. And so I'm like you. I try to see what other people are kind of thinking, but also want to ignore it because it's so absurd. Some things are so absurd to me, but you can't put your head in the sand, right? And that's the eternal question, right? It's like, and then how can you have a civilized conversation with folks who really wholeheartedly believe there's no climate change or wholeheartedly believe that this person, I mean, like you can't talk to them.
Well, this goes back to the KRS-One, how we were talking about, do the people who are, I don't know, don't understand or flabbergasted at why he would do this, or maybe they're genuinely pissed, at his decision to not, take this opportunity, whatever their range and severity of emotions is, do does Elon Musk, does JD Vance, does Ron DeSantis what's the dude who's like writing books and like filing lawsuits against like, DEI and social justice people saying it's like, reverse racism. I forgot the guy's name. But like, do these people do they really genuinely believe, like, do they have the conviction? Is it principled? So like I'm gonna trust, and if I am proven otherwise, I'll own it. But I'm gonna trust, without having done a lot of research, that KRS-One has chosen not to do this because he has, here are my principles, and here's why I'm choosing to do what I do. Whether you agree with me or get it or not is irrelevant.
That's
So,
him. That's him.
right? I mean, I mean, does that seem
Oh
like
yeah.
a fair,
Yeah.
probably, observation? So does
Yep.
JD Vance, does Elon Musk, do they really, is it a principled stance, or is it just politics? Or
But
can,
Elon Musk just made that whole announcement. He wants to get rid of DEI
yeah,
and stuff.
DEI should die or whatever, like,
I don't know. I don't know what they. I don't. Like, I could answer because I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what their motives are. I mean, you always think that power and stuff corrupt, of course, and that's people want to be in power. So, do they really believe it? So many senators say they're against gay rights, and they found they're fucking boys in a bathroom. So I mean, like, I don't know what is that self hatred? Is that do they believe? Like, I don't. Do they separate themselves from that? I mean, that's the thing. That's a good question. I have no. When it comes to our leader, it comes to people in big, rich people and stuff. I'm not rich. I have no idea what they're thinking.
well, I mean, and I think it applies to all these things we've been talking about. Roseanne, like, did they fire her because there was principle like this? Of course they're going to say it is. They're going to put a statement out.
Right,
Like,
of
there's no,
course.
I mean, I don't follow sports that much anymore, but I do follow the English Premier League, and, there's incidents of racism all the time. And you see, something will happen. It's usually fan related, right? Well, you yell something or throw a banana on the feet. It's just stupid shit, right? And then, they're pretty good about finding out. They have cameras everywhere, so they find, like, you know, Crystal Palace Football Club has, banned so and so, age 23, from East London from attending matches for 7 years, and there's no room for racism in football or society. It's like, I mean, it's the template, anti-racist thing. So do they really care? Or, was it ABC? Is that where Roseanne worked? Does ABC really care? Jimmy the Greek was at CBS. Like, does CBS
Yeah.
really care? Like, I, I I've been around enough, and I think the answer is no. I think it's almost always performative. Whether it's, pro, anti-racist, or, JD Vance, DeSantis, Elon Musk. I think they think, I think Elon Musk thinks that it's principled, but I don't know that it is. I have no proof. I'm probably unlikely to ever have a conversation with him to delve into my assumption, but that's what I'm thinking.
Well, my take is always the same because I don't know what people think, and I try not to put stuff on people. Either I know I have my own beliefs, of course. People ask me, "Do I think soap operas are racist?" I go, "I don't. They're racist, but there's some stuff that's not going on these soaps. I call those out." So same with all this stuff. Same. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if it's challenging you, but just insert something. I think one of the problems with racist or racism, or, you're racist, or that thing you did, is that it's such a charged word. And whether you're an individual or a TV network or a company or whatever, like, no one wants to be, accused or even feel like they're being accused of being racist. But, and, obviously I don't know the soap world like you. But if, which it sounds like it is, if there's a hugely disproportionate representation of races, that's racist. It might not be, as Chris Rock would say, burning cross racist, but it's just kind of default racist, which is still racism, right? So it's like, I think, and it's hard because people like us who, we know that it's charged, and we know that people don't, really understand, like, like, who was it? who was it that said like, are you some black like, are you racist? Like, yeah, I'm racist. I'm trying not to be, I'm trying, daily to not be and try to be anti-racist. But like, we're all kind of racist. White people probably more so more often. And when we can remove that label, like, oh my God, I'm racist. Like, I hope no one finds out. Right? And we just go, okay, so that's a thing. It's not good. Trying to improve. Then we can have a different conversation. So anyway, that was my little insertion.
And that's what I was going to say. Um, so I'm old. I had a whole thick thought, and I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say. So I'll try to just go a different direction. With that. I don't know. I feel like I don't always agree with Whoopi Goldberg, but I do agree with her something sometimes. I guess I feel like I feel like I know when it's intentionally racist. I know that racism come in many forms. I've had done to me in many forms. I've shared it on these shows. I've shared some of the forms that come through. I guess I think sometimes people again just fall in line with society and may not even realize they're being racist.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what my point is about social stuff. I feel like if the network is not challenging you to do diverse casting and you're white and you just have it's always the default is always just white. And you have some diverse people on your show, or whatever. You may not think about certain things like lighting for black people, hair and makeup for people of color. Like you may not even think about that. So I don't know if that's why I go. I don't know if that's racist. It's just that you've never had to think about it, so it's not one of your concerns. So if it's not happening, go ahead. You go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, no, we're in violent agreement again. So I think I don't even know if it's disagreement, but we're saying the same thing. I'm just saying that everything you just described, like, what? Like, we have light. Oh gosh, didn't even think that, someone with darker skin would need different shades of makeup. Like, oh my God, like that's racist. It's not aggressive, violent, I'm gonna kill you racism, but it's racist because that's how whiteness works. That's what like Dr. Gassam was, that's I'm assuming I haven't read her book. I'm so sick of like DEI books. Like if I never read another fucking DEI book, like, I'll be very happy. But anyway, I still support her principle of it. It's like that's centering whiteness, whether intentionally or not. And I'm sure there's a continuum, a range of intentionality around it. But even if it's like genuine, like, oh my gosh, like I didn't think, yeah, like we should change that. Okay, well, that's starting to decenter whiteness and go, oh, that's right. Like there are people with different skin tones who need different lighting and different background. Okay, we're going to start, not only are we going to change what we've, reverse what we've done to, certain individuals, but we're actually going to proactively put in, people and principles and policies and all the things so that moving forward, whoever comes in, yeah, we got you covered, dark black woman. Yeah, we got you covered, light, Indian woman, see what I'm getting at? So that I think again, it's like removing the harshness of being labeled racist is what prevents us from having the conversation. Now, of course, the challenge is when you do that, people are still going to feel like accused. So even if you present it in a kind of non-charged way, people are still going to feel like there's a charge to it, which is the meta conversation. Well, that's the whole problem. So we can't even talk about it because you feel accused and you're going to get defensive and say why you're not, when I didn't even really accuse you of anything. I was just pointing something out. Okay, I'm stepping down off my soapbox for now. I reserve the right to step back up onto it.
But now I have to defend myself because I never finished my points.
And I'm sorry I've interrupted you so
So I
many
want to make sure I want to make sure I defend myself. That I want people to know at home that everything he's saying, I do know also. I am black. I do know all this stuff. And I was going to go into a whole thing about that. So I don't want you to get in trouble. People go, well, he's explaining it to Jay. I'm like, I do know all this stuff. And I was leading to something, but I just didn't get a chance to say it.
I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, but I'll make sure we're both safe. And this said, I'm going to know that I do know what racism is. I know what it is. But I had a point that I was trying to make is that because now I remember my point now. What I was trying to make. My point is that though, when it comes to conversation, going back to your original thought that you brought up, that is, I say, it's just a $25,000 question. When it comes to discussing race and racial issues, there are ways to do. You kind of there's ways you choose to do it. One is aggressive, and that's it, and that's it. And there's other ways to do it. And so for me, so when someone says to me, "You think the soap opera is racist?" I said, I say, I don't know if they're racist, but there are racist things happening on the show. And I point those out specifically. So when I talk to my audience or audiences that are not Black, they can kind of see what I'm saying. When I say, like, the beautiful dark skinned actress in the show has not had a love interest, while everybody else has, it's like people, a lot of people are like, well, I never really thought of that before. Or things will come up for people that go, well, she's the good girl. And like, we don't need a magical Negro either. That's a whole big stereotype also. We want Black folks to have the spectrum. They can be villains, they can be good folks, we want the spectrum on here. So I think for me, I go a lot of times, I think a lot of people, because I know who's writing these shows, you can see the last names, you can see who they are, and producing them. There's a lot of misogyny that happens on soaps, it was originally created for women by women. So there's certain things I say. So I always say I don't always say exactly that they are racist exactly, but there are racist things that are happening. So I always go from that level. I find that a lot of folks, there are some folks who'll just turn off anyway and won't listen to anything I'm saying. But I notice some folks will tell me I never thought that way before. Once I pinpoint what it is I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
when it comes to lighting, because for me, I know lighting is different for people who are brown or olive skin, or and even for white pale people, there's a certain lighting you need for them too, so they don't look shiny and washed out. There's a whole lighting, but there's some people in Hollywood who still just don't give a shit. You put the lighting on, you're like, well, no. I mean, people make fun of Mariah Carey all the time because she knows lighting. She's a mixed race, person. She knows what lighting is good for her. Hair on some soaps, it's still the Black women, Hispanic women get their own hair on certain sets, where the white women get their hair done. It's like there's certain things that you're like, okay, need to change. So once I start to talk to people about the pinpointing what it is, then they go, oh, okay, and then they start to see it also. I just think that sometimes some people just don't know because they've never had to think about
Right.
it. And
Yeah.
that's I guess that was just my general point. So when I try to talk about certain racial issues, unless someone's being blatantly, there's some folks who are just blatantly being racist. This their agenda. They're like hate all Black people, whatever. They're right there. That's different. But I think there's also other nuances where, like I said, I've been called the N word intentionally, where someone wanted to kill me, and I've been called the N word in jest. I mean, I've had both, and I guess for me, it doesn't. It doesn't bother me when it's in jest. It bothers me when someone wants to kill me because I'm behind it. So I guess I discern. I guess, and maybe it's what a lot of us Black folks we do. We discern what's the level of importance of racism, and I guess that was
Yeah.
kind of my.
Yeah. Again, I think we're in violent agreement because what you're describing, I think, is, and pick your system, patriarchy, systemic racism, homophobia, transphobia, right? There's a reason why these are, systemic, is they've been built over the years and decades and centuries to normalize, whiteness, to normalize, male is in chargeness, right? To normalize straightness, all the things, right? And so those are the systems. So you're right, like whether it's, aggressive, that's one thing, but most of the time it's just kind of, what do they say, like, the water we swim in kind of thing. And I think, that's the I mean I keep wanting to bring it back to KRS-One because I'm curious if you have more, because again, I haven't read the article or an article yet, more of the details of his refusal. Was it just as simple as like, nah, like this is 50 years, I've been doing this for probably 50 years or 45 at least, and where have y'all been? Is it, which is, by the way, good enough for me. Like, I don't need any more to be convinced of his opinion, but curious, because that's the system. Like, okay, hip hop is clearly an international, thing that people appreciate and enjoy, and has largely, I would say, been, legitimized, for lack of a better, way to put it. But yet, it still has its stereotypes. It still has its stigmas. It still has, in certain communities, in certain, parts of the world, etc. So I'm curious to know more about KRS-One's view, and if he's laying it out for people to say, hey, here are my principles, and you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to really understand it, but just you have to know where I'm coming from.
My thing was mostly the comments because I mean we decided to do it's his business, but to me, the comments were the most interesting because it goes back to what you're saying about do people really care, do they not care? Because it goes to that because everybody's commenting on it, and as you know, the small few sometimes influence the loud that are silent, who are not saying anything, who are not online, who are not, I tell you all the time, online is a small part, but in a way it isn't at this point. It's part of our lives. I mean, it's like I've made friendships online. I mean, there's relationships online. I mean, it's become it's part of us now. We can't extricate ourselves from it. And I think with him, it was a simple. Things I saw was as simple as where were you before? And now all of a sudden you want to use me, so to speak. This is 50th anniversary. And I think and it's just that a lot of people I know who are younger are just like, it's a quick buck. What do you what why do you care? Like just go on there, do your thing. You still get seen. And I keep saying, well, a lot of these older rappers have lives outside of hip hop and have lives, they're doing fine. This is not going to kill their careers or they're not in hustle mode like that anymore. And I think we're taught to be in hustle mode. And I'm here in LA. That's all I talk about is like hustle mode. So I think with him, just from what I saw, it was more like it's the principle of the matter
Yeah.
because Grammys have a checkered past with hip hop,
Yeah.
a very checkered.
Well, it reminded me of a book that I read recently. Trisha Hersey, um, Rest is Resistance. So she's a black woman. Her thing is the NAP ministry, and she's basically saying, hustle culture is capitalism and is white supremacy. And you read her book, it's 200 whatever 50 pages, and like on every page she does not miss an opportunity to remind you, the reader, of that. And it gets at that, right? Like, we have been kind of brought up, especially people our age, but I think even it's true for any generation really, who's in, not even necessarily in the workforce. I think my kids, I mean, they're 14. I think they've been brought up to a certain degree, like, yeah, you hustle, and like, you do this, you do your homework, you get good grades, you go play piano, you go to ballet, and all the things. And it's like rest. I mean, the title is brilliant, like Rest is Resistance. So I don't know if KRS-One has read Trisha Hersey or not, or if he's familiar with, or if he's channeling her or not, but in a way it's like, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm not playing part of this hustle
I
kind of
just I
game.
don't know. I just think for me, I just think it's what he does because he's not just an artist. He's also he's a leader. He's a protester. He's it's like it's the same with like Public Enemy or
Yeah, Chuck D.
it's like he's another one of those, but like Public Enemy or like or I mean, there's a lot of artists who are artists, but they also do things like a Neil Young. They actually speak out on subjects. They talk about things and they make choices. They've made actual commercial choices to do or not do certain things. I think this aligns to me with Karis One. Period. He's always been very old school, and I get it. And also to your thing about the hustle, there is a new movement starting to have. Well, Gen Z is starting it kind of, where it's like, I don't want to work the 80-hour week. I don't want to do that. Remember back that book that came out, the 4-hour work week book came out, and people were like, "What?" But I know a lot of people are like, I want to work less hours and get the most done. They're starting to return to that work smarter, not harder mentality. I've started to work that way too. 'Cause I used to be this Mr. Hustler. I'm like, I'm gonna do everything, but now I'm like, no, I don't want to do everything. I don't want to work all the time. I don't
Yeah.
want to get up at 4 in the morning and have 3 hours of sleep. They're finding out that's not good for your health, and everybody's dropping dead like flies. They're dropping in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. That take care of themselves. So they're, I mean, I did a post once on naps, and I mean, it was a huge hit. People was like, "Oh my god!" And I can just keep sitting up. I mean, I'm Mister like right now, be like, and that's it. You go to bed, sitting right here. I have no problem sleeping. I sleep 7 hours a night just about. People don't understand. I do. I sleep. I'd be a bitch if I can't sleep. So I'm like, I like sleep, and I don't care. Work well. I'm efficient when I'm awake, so I will get stuff done. I'm busy the whole day, but like I will get it done. But that's there's a movement happening, slowly starting to happen. And I would say Gen Z probably is the ones that kind of started this. So they're like, yeah, nah, I don't want that job either. I'm getting paid $2 an hour, and I'm like, and not treated well.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to work 0 hours a week, frankly, if I
Same
could.
here. The money just
And
come in. Shit.
yeah, and then retire, later. I'll retire later, but right now I just want to work 0 hours a week. I'm curious, your list, you had Taylor's versions. Taylor Swift was Time's Person of the Year. Now, I can't remember if my kids told me this or where I heard this. How is that selected? Someone said that it was like it's like an algorithm, like number of news stories about her or something. So it's not uh like a person a company selection process. But then I'm like, really? So I don't know. I don't know if you know that or know if that's true or not, or know how it's selected. I don't. But anyway, as I'm curious, just your thoughts on that, but also your inclusion in your list of Taylor's versions, because again, I'm sure not knowing the depth that you know about, pop stuff, pop culture stuff. I do have some thoughts and some questions on just the Taylor Swift phenomena phenomenon.
All right. So there are several things. One is there's been a lot of Taylor versus Beyonce. And
Okay.
so both and almost like Taylor, Beyonce, and now Madonna. They're all on tour, everybody's doing their thing. And with Taylor, a lot of folks are like, unlike many other artists, the black community there's no connection with her. Where Beyonce has connection with everybody, so is Madonna, right? And there are other white artists who've had connections with the black audience on solo. Shania Twain, there are black folks who love Shania Twain, or loved Garth Brooks like I did. We loved all of them, or Bruce Springsteen. But you're saying it's funny. There's a phenomenon with her where, yeah, there are a few black folks, but I like some of her songs. My niece Haley was one of her videos for Shake It Off. She was a black cheerleader
Oh
in
yeah.
the video. But I mean, there's a few, but like black folks ain't talking about Taylor Swift. And now is the thing that came up this week because she's so huge, and there's no denying the number. Why I brought her up? There's certain reasons why I brought her up. And Angel Blue saying, I think this is what I agree, Angel Blue. I don't trust any of these magazines. Rolling Stone, Entertainment Weekly, People. It's for clicks and buying. So Taylor Swift is huge. Everyone's talking about her. I think it's why she was picked. Like somebody said, Vladimir Putin was up there also as a not was in there too somewhere. So it's like I think it's for hits and clicks and purchases. How they pick their person of the year.
Well, and to be clear, I think, like, tell me if I'm wrong, it's not like condoning, it's just whoever's, I mean, it's Time Magazine who does it. Yeah. I mean, they're a news. I mean, I think there's still a non-air quoted news organization. Yes, maybe, no, I don't know. But point is, like, it's not like, oh, we think it's not like a peace Nobel Prize. It's like, hey, here's someone who's been in the news this year, and for whatever reasons, they're our person of the year. I think I'm not declaring that or saying, but I guess I'm curious because I mean I have my reasons why I'm kind of meh on Taylor Swift, but as far as black people generally not being into her, do you think it's because of her music? just doesn't kind of transcend, like Madonna's does. Or I mean, I'm not really into pop music anyway, ever. So that's a whole nother thing that we could go down. But you know, understanding that people are into pop music, people do like Taylor Swift and Beyonce and Michael Jackson and all, all the people, right? Like, why is it that Black people generally, given Taylor's hugeness, is mostly a non-Black crowd? Is it her music, or are there other reasons that she just doesn't kind of resonate with Black folks? Not that I'm
Um,
asking you, James, as the Black, a
what's
voice.
up, Mary? I was gonna tell you, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I'm not that age, so I couldn't tell you. I just know, as I was continue saying, I think to answer your other questions, for me, Taylor is a game changer. So, and she's also most talked about, and she's getting people in seats, and she's selling out arenas, movie houses. She's selling vinyl. She's selling cassettes. She's selling videos. She's selling CDs, and she's streaming the fuck out of everybody else. And that's just why I brought her in there, because between her Taylor's versions and her regular albums like Midnight, those are the regular ones, and Red, but her 1999, huge Taylor's version, another one, huge Taylor version. And she's doing something that the blueprint was kind of laid down before. She said Kelly Clarkson gave her the idea, funny. Um, but before that, people like Prince, George Michael, they were fighting for all this. That's what they were fighting for. They're all fighting for this. And Prince re-recorded in 1999 Purple Rain in his own. He did it later after, then he got the masters, whatever. But before he was fighting for all that, Taylor literally is just like a descendant of it. And so she's smart. And I think a lot of folks are going, she's smart. We see what she's doing. She's been around for like 15 years. So like it's funny how she goes and down, up and then she's just like she's having one of her best years. And one reason why I also mention her is because she's breaking records in streaming and sales. I mean, people are literally going to Target and to Walmart and purchasing her albums on vinyl, folks. And it's making it, I mean, we're talking 500,000 copies of an album. Like that's not done anymore. You and I know we're old enough to know when it was only vinyl and when it was vinyl and CDs, and tapes. That was something different. She's doing it. See the chat right saying it's Taylor Swift, we're just living in it. And she's never been this popular. Like I said in chat, she's never been this. She's always been popular, but when she went pop, because when she was country, when she went pop, she popped, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. So, gosh, so I have actually, because I'm a musician, and I understand the whole idea of like the music industry, screwing artists. So just want to make sure anyone listening knows that I understand that. And I'm curious. So like if I remember correctly, when Prince changed his name to the artist, to the symbol, that was some, and maybe you remember the details. I don't, like around like some contractual dispute, and he's like, well, okay, fuck you, I'm gonna change my name. You can't tell me I can't change my name. Okay, so I got to put three more albums out. All right, well, they're going to be this. And so, you know, so I'd love to know more about that. And then is Taylor more, because I still don't really fully understand what she's saying. Like she put these albums out earlier in her career. They did well, but she didn't feel like she had artistic control and or
No, no, not at all. No, what happened was it's a big case. Her producers and her company sold her masters without her knowing.
oh, that's what
And
it was.
so then she's like, wait a minute. And she sued and lost or whatever. And she was like, wait a minute. So she was, and so she said Kelly Clarkson told her,
Sold
re-record all the
sold her
albums.
mas when you say sold her masters, like
The
produced her.
company, the company out there is called, I think it was called Big Fun or Big something. That was a company. You guys will tell me in chat. But they like literally sold her music away. They didn't give her a chance to buy it or nothing. They sold it away.
To who? Just private people who wanted.
I don't know all the details on that. You
Yeah.
have to, like I said, you have to look that up. But either way, she decided she wanted to own her music. But she always had creative control. She was always fine. She always wrote her own songs, and her first song was Tim McGraw. That was a big hit. And she wrote the thing about Taylor Swift, I think, to answer also one of your other questions, is that she's like Drake. In my opinion, folks, you come at me later. They put out throwaway pop. It's easy listening. It's good to write a pop song is not easy. I'm a songwriter. To write a pop song is not easy. To write a hit song is even harder. So it's not even like a diss at them. So I like Taylor. I like some of her stuff. I like Drake. I like some of Drake's stuff. But it literally it's a lot of people say I couldn't name 5 songs of hers. And that's the problem. And so her first 6 albums were under this one company, and one group. So that's why she's recording each of those first 6 albums.
And
And
so
that's
then
that's that's
so she now owns
those versions, yes.
those versions.
Taylor's
So
version.
are which makes sense why they're called Taylor's versions.
Yes.
And
And the industry now has said, it's not put into law, no one else can do that unless you're like 10 year decade after you've left that you fulfilled your contraction. Like they're trying to she's actually affecting law now, yeah, about people re-recording to own their own shit.
hmm, I'm
She's
just
actually
trying to figure
affecting
out, I'm trying to figure out how I feel about it because on one hand, I kind of don't
it. Yeah,
trust.
Big Machine Records. Big Machine Records. That's right.
I
Scott
kind
Borchetta
of,
sold it to Master Scooter Braun. That's what it is.
whenever I hear either in person or read online or hear online or see online or something like just a hardcore defense of any and everything that Taylor Swift does or has done or will do, I wonder about the attachment. You know, I'm big on non-attachment and non-clinging. It's a very Buddhist thing. Like I wonder about the attachment to Taylor Swift's righteousness and goodness. So yes, she wrote, "Here's what it'd be if I were a man," and that was clever and a good feminist kind of thing. And so like and yes, she's kind of spoken up here and there, like being from Tennessee, and hey, these people don't speak for me, and but it's still kind of like it. I guess what I'm trying to discern for myself and for all of us is like, all right, is that commendable? Or is it kind of like superficial, or maybe both, or maybe in between? I don't know. Because there seems like there's also when I think of like true, activists, people who are, as popular as she, I don't even know if I can think of some. I mean, like Taylor Swift, Muhammad Ali. I mean, probably the same level of bigness. And I don't think we'd be comparing them as far as like what they're doing for society, for justice, for equity, for equality. And
And
maybe we
this
should,
is
maybe that's unfair. Maybe that's unfair to even make those comparisons. I don't know.
I think it is unfair. I completely unfair because it's like I've been told by black people, why aren't you doing more? What I mean, everyone has their lane. And I feel like it all adds to the pot. So you guys are doing this over here, you're doing this over here. If it all adds to the cause, there are parts that I have no problems with whatever. As long as you're doing something pot enough. And with me, with her, she's got all these girls to sign up to vote, to register to vote. Thank you, Jesus. And these folks are not crazy folks. She's actually doing big things. She was giving money to all her tour people for Thanksgiving. Like she is actually making, to me, she is actually spending her money. I don't know her personally. I could be totally wrong about her. She seems very genuine to me. I think she's more genuine than Beyonce, to tell you the truth. And I know the Beehive would come at me, but I feel like she's more genuine than Beyonce is. But I think they both are doing their thing, and they both are actually. I saw there's a black gay podcast called Minority. These 3 guys, and I think they're younger than I am, but they literally tearfully talked about how much the Renaissance tour meant to them for Beyonce, and how they felt for their black queerness, how they felt the first time at a concert, they gave fully themselves. And I had people tell me, well, you can't go to concerts fully yourself. I'm like, no, you can't. When you're of certain colors or whatever, no, you can't be. You want to go to the concert still, but no, you can't be fully yourself. That's just how life works. A lot of us code switch. This is how it is. But they felt like, so I got what they were saying. They felt they went somewhere where she was celebrating it on stage, and she celebrated it, she fostered it in the audience. To me, if three guys felt like fully themselves at a concert, then yes, she's doing some great work. Whether it's performative or not, I don't give a shit, because sometimes it's not the messenger, it's still the message. And that's something we have to work on too sometimes and figure
Yeah.
that discernment. Is it always, if the message still comes through and folks are still positively affected, there you go. And back to Taylor Swift, I just feel like, it's Taylor wanted, I'm an artist. I want to own all my shit. I'm sorry, I created it. I want to own it. It's mine. It's going to do whatever I want with it. And when someone does something behind, doesn't even give you the chance to opt in on something that's your own, that's offensive to me.
Yeah.
That'll never be offensive to me. And I just think it's different to say, do you want this? You go, no, I don't want, I don't, you drop out or whatever. But like, if they give you the chance, that whole famous Michael Jackson, Paul McCartney thing, Michael owns the Beatles catalog. Paul McCartney was telling him about it. Michael was like, you should own publishing. What do you do? Beatles thing was up. He outbid Paul McCartney and took it. And Paul, and they were never friends since. So it's like, but you did kind of tell him to kind of do it. But Michael was being smart, and he took it, like, owned the Beatles catalog, but he didn't like that the Revolution song was in Nike. There's a lot of things that Beatles. I mean, and I kind of get I get where Paul McCartney's coming from. I get where they're coming from. Mariah Carey is very clear. I wrote or co-wrote each of my 19 number one songs. Mariah Carey is a songwriter. She's known for other things, but being a diva and all that. But she's like, I wrote these songs. I play the piano. I wrote these songs. So I get when you're an artist and you create something. I'm sorry. I'm a creative. I will always side with a creative person, no matter.
Yeah.
There's no discussion for me on that. It's like I will always, when it's your stuff. George Michael was blacklisted for like 10 years. Couldn't do anything because he just wanted creative control. It's like, let him put out the album he wants to put out. See what happens. If it falls apart, you can say, I told you so. Like, but corporations have such strongholds and just like rigidness. And I think they do because he was gay. That was also another thing too, was coming out. There's some of that in there. And so if you're a woman, you're difficult when you stand up for yourself. So back to Taylor, I think a lot of she does. She gets a lot of flack. Because remember years ago, her flack was she talks about her ex-boyfriends and songs. That was always a big thing. So don't date Taylor because she'll talk about you in a song. But like now, since she gets like this flag, like, yeah, she's a white girl. Okay. She can't help being white. That's what she does. Her music appeals to a certain mass audience around the world. Nothing wrong. Her music's positive. Nothing wrong with her music at all. And pop music is not a dirty word. I mean, pop. If you don't like it, that's fine. There's a lot of music you don't like, but it's not a dirt. It's not. I mean, it's like I said, it's kind of throwaway. You kind of like, I know 5 Madonna songs because she's a legend. We all know 5 Madonna songs. We all name these 5 Madonna songs. But Taylor is still young, and we'll see in 30 years if her stuff holds up or not. We'll see if Drake's stuff holds up. I know 5 Eminem songs. I couldn't name 5 Drake songs, but I know I like some of the songs he has. There's like just certain artists, they hold up, as you know, as you get older. Certain ones we'll find out later if Taylor's impact is going to be really as big as we think it is. In Time
Yeah.
magazine, they were wise. They had a picture of her and her cat on the cover of Time magazine. Like, why is a cat on the cover of Time? Like, it's the talk. It's all because I work in this business. None of it's altruistic. It's all for clicks and baits and sales. That's all it's for. I'm jaded. I'm just jaded now because I just know
Yeah.
it's all. It's
Well,
not
you
real.
everything you said, it's like, yeah. And it made me think, especially around music. As you know, and many of the people have been following us, like we often our conversations as they are tonight around race in general go the music, music and race, because we're both interested in it and knowledgeable and etc. And I freely admit this, I'm a music snob. I have my taste and they evolve and emerge and shift and stuff. But I think sometimes my inclination is a polite way to put it, away from pop sometimes makes me jaded in other areas and kind of taints a little bit my ability to just look at kind of the situation a little more objectively. So I just want to own that or acknowledge that. And
I know that Prince was a musician, and I'm sure you recognize he was a genius in many ways. He was him and Michael Jackson, and then they were a little above the fray, right? We'll say that. So I'm sure you recognize that, but they did a lot of they did music that was, I mean, well, Prince did all kind of music, but at some points he did pop music. At one point, he was a popular artist.
Yeah.
So does that
And
change your view of him though, or do you recognize him as
no, I recognize him as, you know, as the as who he, you know, who he was musically and historically in music, but it's just I don't listen
yeah?
to pop music. I wouldn't say I never have or never will, but just generally I don't. I had Purple Rain for a while on vinyl, and then I don't know what happened to it, but I took it out one day a couple years ago, and it was like all warped, so I threw it away. And I was gonna like replace it, and I never have. So it's like, and I probably won't, not because like fuck Prince. It's just like, yeah, it's I don't, you know, I'm not really gonna listen to Purple Rain. I have 600 other albums, you know. So I think that sometimes does for me, you know, and music's just one example of like a popular thing that, you know, we're all, whatever level of interest we have in it, that we are exposed to. I think sometimes the discussions around you know, huge pop stars like Taylor Swift or Beyonce um dominate the discussion to such an extent that people don't even realize that there are other choice. They do intellectually, but they don't really think about like there are other choices to explore. Because I'm my whole life, my whole not just musically, but everything, politics, food, travel has been about being here and not interested in exploring to go like, oh, if I explore, like there's so much more. And so that's kind of my life, you know, my kind of my trajectory. And so I think I apply that. So when I hear people talking, you know, kind of sing whatever their opinion on, you know, a Taylor Swift or a Beyonce, it's like, yeah, you know, there's this stuff over here. Oh yeah, well, you know, but let's talk about Taylor Swift. So I guess that's a form of jadedness that I should own.
I mean, it's just I say I admit it. I'm in the business, so I know there are a lot of things that aren't altruistic. There are a lot of things that are done for very specific reasons. They're done to get clicks and hits and sales and they're smart. I mean, that's what the business is about. You're trying to make money. That's what the business is all about. It's about making money. So there's certain people. So it goes back to the Karis one thing we talk about. I just start to wrap this up.
Yeah.
It goes back to him. Some folks are like, you should just do it. Just keep your mouth shut, make that money, make the appearance. You're part of they called you part of it. How dare you? And then go about your business. Where he's saying, like, that's not all money is good money, not all appearances are good appearances. And I agree with him on that because he's an artist. He's an artist, but he's also an activist. There's other things to me, that's a form of activism. To maybe I'm too close to it because I just went through my own thing. It's a form of activism to not be involved in something that's very popular.
Well, I mean, what you just said right there, I think was what I was trying to capture just a minute ago. So in a way, I mean, we kind of joke about it in my family and some of my close friends, like, you know, like I don't listen to that or I don't do that. It's too mainstream. And I'm kind of joking, kind of teasing and stuff like, but it's kind of true. Like I don't gravitate towards the mainstream opinion, music, you know, whatever sport, you know, so like, and it kind of, yes, I think when I was younger, it was kind of more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you know, uh, reactionary or like, not, what's the word I'm looking for? Like contrarian. But now I don't really see it as contrarian anymore for me. I just see it like, no, this is who I am. And some people just don't have that explorative nature about them to even go there with me.
See, here's the thing. I had to learn this also. Some people, they're not like that. They're happy and content with what. And you have to get. Yeah, I have a couple of best friends. Love them to pieces. I've known them for 30 years, and their lives are literally drama free. They don't really do much. I mean, they have the things they eat, the things they like, the movies they like, the songs they like. There's no exploration whatsoever. I'm like, you want to read a book? No, I don't read a book. Like they don't. They seemingly are content and the way their life is. And I had to learn not to make fun of them because we did an episode on our show about people don't read books or whatever. But I mean, at some level, for some people, know that I have friends tell me, James, I'm a regular person. Okay, because I am an overachiever. I'm on the other end. So it is hard for me to judge other people because I am so far over here. I've always been curious. I've always been exploratory. There are folks, Jerry Carroll, that they're fine with Young Sheldon or Big Bang Theory or How I Met Your Mother, and I'm like, those shows are horrible. What do you want? I'm like, oh. They don't care about The Crown or Bridgerton or anything. They don't want to see anything highbrow. They don't want to watch Doctor Who or whatever. They don't care about that. They see what's in front of them. They like what's in front of them. They have the same foods and the same restaurants every day. Like it's that's what they do.
Well, and this is we're running up against time. So as we
Yes.
know, and anyone listening knows who's listened to us before, we could this could be like the first third of our show. We could keep going for another.
Easily, no, easily. I mean,
But
easily, yes.
I will leave. Maybe this is just a teaser for a future conversation we have.
Next year, kids. Next year.
I would argue that while that's totally true, and I appreciate you sharing it the way you did, because it's like, yeah, that's true. We all know that. That okay, it might seem harmless. It might seem harmless that someone's not as exploratory or they like all the mainstream stuff only and they don't know about, these other shows or this other music or this other food or these other cultures or these other races, or that women can be leaders, or that gay people aren't sick, or that, trans folks aren't. See where I'm going? So I think it's like it's a mindset. I'm not saying everyone who likes Taylor Swift is, a racist, homophobe, misogynist. I'm just saying I think there's some mindset similarities that we could point to on our next show.
And I guess for me, as we end this, I see it totally differently. I think I don't put it as in general as like that. In general, I feel like that stuff is separate from entertainment. I think entertainment is something separate, but that could be a good topic for either of our shows we do next. I mean, because that's something that because I'm like, no, entertainment's different. Entertainment, sports, something that's different to me. That's different than actual life race stuff. I feel like it's different. Like it's different. So we'll have to leave that for the future because this is our last show of the year. We're gonna come back sometime in January, of course. We're gonna take a little time off talking about race crap. But believe me, there's enough race stuff to go around. It's not going anywhere. Jerry Carroll. I don't think it's going anywhere.
I don't think so, unfortunately, but
Ajax. I mean, I would love to come and be like, you know what? They solved the race problem. Oh my God, kids. They solved it all. There's no racism anywhere.
that's our New Year's our collective New Year's resolution is we're going to solve racism in 2024.
We are. We're gonna solve it. All right, guys. I just want to read this one comment as we go out. Angel Blue, thanks for your comments and everybody who's in
Yes,
here.
thank
That
you.
to add to the race talk, when I was in high school, I listened to most pop rock alternative music, and I was accused of being an Oreo to other black kids in my school. That's another topic also. I was called an Oreo and a zebra and all that stuff, yes, for things that I liked. So that's a discussion in 2024 also, talk about. Like who owns because again, as we end this, black folks started all music of all genres. Basically, we did.
Yeah.
If you challenge me, folks, go ahead and challenge me. Jazz, blues, R&B, country, pop. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. We
Yeah.
started it. We started
Reggae.
it. Reggae,
I mean,
everything. It's all
hip hop came out of sound system culture from Jamaica, which came out of, R&B from the States, which came out of blues, which came out of jazz, which came out of slave songs, so yes.
I'm just saying, folks.
I don't disagree with you on any of that.
Yes, I said challenge. So we got in the show on that. You challenge folks. You challenge me at home on that one. But I think you want. I know my music history, so that's not it. But Jerry Carroll. So as we end for the year, we want to end racism in 2024. But what is one thing to say to the public? We've been doing these talks for about almost a couple of years now at this point.
I'm
What do we
on.
want to say to the public? Say to the public. Last words.
Just thank you, James, for your friendship and your thought partnership and hosting the show. I just show up and shoot my mouth off, and you let me, and so I appreciate you for that. And come into 24. Speaking of music, and maybe the next time we do this, we don't have a date yet set, but we will soon. I will have launched my vinyl DJ like business, I guess, call it that. But I've decided to turn, my record collection and my impeccable exploratory taste in music into a service. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to look like. I have a couple DJ names that I'm mulling over that will be revealed soon enough, and so that's where my energy is. Coming into the new year. Um, and I'll pause there.
I didn't, folks. I didn't even know this, so it's interesting. Okay. For me, I also want to thank you for our friendship and thought partnership. Also, Jerry Carroll. It's been wonderful, and we talk, and I've been triggered on the show. I've been non-triggered on the show, all kind of stuff. But it's all learning. It's all good. It's good, and I hope folks at home who are listening to this, or watch us, or listen to our podcast, "The Black Guy and White Guy Confront," that the least we hope conversation starts. That's all we're trying to get this conversation going. We don't want to be stagnant and the world just like stop and everything just be what it is. We are trying to change the world one conversation at a time. That's what we are really are trying to do. And we're trying to show you a way of how it can be done between a black person and a white person and two people. So thank you for that. Why Guy Confronting Racism is his book. He has it out there. You can go check that out. I'm James Lott Jr. You can check all my stuff everywhere. I'm all over the place. Just Google me. You'll find my stuff. And my album is out. Silver Bells and Disco Balls. It's out now. My Christmas album. Check that out. I know it's hilarious. So check that out also. It's good stuff. And we will talk to you next year here on